All right, so it says we're live. This is the part. If you are on Patreon, let's double check to make sure it's working over there. All right, so we are up in Adam over there. If you are watching on Patreon, you can simply click on the video to take it over to YouTube, and once you are over on YouTube, you are free to leave comments and interact with me. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play this backing track, and I'm going to jam a little bit to give you an idea of what our lesson is going to look like tonight. So let me turn this backing track on. It is a blues in C, and it is attached to your Patreon post. Here we go. There we go. Backing track off. Let's talk about what's happening, what we got going on. All right. So when you are first learning, we are doing this, and we're going to be talking about a blues in the key of C. So let me talk to you a little bit about what our progression is. If you're watching over here, feel free to make a comment. Let me know what your questions are. The PDFs and the MP3 are going to help you, but you have the advantage if you have this window open on YouTube of talking in the chat and asking questions. That's the beauty of the live lesson. So what we're going to be getting and going right here is a pentatonic scale review. I got things popping off here and there, so I'm making sure that I can catch you guys' comments where I can. So our 12-bar blues is going to be a C7 chord. And that's going to be the first 4 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. From there, it's going to go to an F7 chord. Simply make your F chord and get your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the C string and your pinky on the 3rd of the A string. 2, 3, 1, 3. F7 for 2. And then back to C7 for 2. That's right, with C. Then we're going to finish with a G7. It's the mirror image of G. 1, F7, C7, and F7. I'm sorry, and G7. Okay? So that would be 4 of C7, 2 of F7, 2 of C7, 1 G7, 1 F7, 1 C7, 1 G7. That moves a little quick. Hey, Robbie, you made it. Welcome, man. So if that moves a little quick, I recommend maybe writing that down. It is like all blues coming from a 1, a 4, and a 5 chord. Okay? So our C minor pentatonic is the scale that I would say C blues, C minor pentatonic, shred. A blues, A minor pentatonic, shred. F blues, F minor pentatonic. That's where you get started. And your C minor pentatonic is going to be your open C string, ring finger, 3rd fret, 0, 3. Down here, we get 1, 2, I'm sorry, 1, 3, and then down again we get 1, 3. So we get C minor, O, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. And that would be the first place that you would start with that backing track. You put the backing track on again, and you would so a lot of that is just noodling and figuring it out for yourself, guessing and checking, right? There are some, hey, Rob Young, hola amigo, welcome. So there are some general tips. You have an F note here, and a G note here, and a C note here. And considering your blues has those 3 chords, you can aim for hit those notes and emphasize those notes when you get to those chords. I'm over a C chord. Okay, I'm going to emphasize that open C. I get to an F. That last note I'm going to play is going to be the F until I go back to the C, to the G, to the F, back to the C, and then up to the F. So that is blues leveling number 1, the pentatonic scale over the progression, okay? Now you can hit chord tones. A chord tone is when you highlight a chord or a note from the scale in that chord, which is what we did over the F, the G, and the C. Rob, any questions so far? Have I lost you? Does it feel like where you're at in your blues soloing? Feel advanced in your blues soloing? Does it feel behind in your blues soloing? At this point, with everything we've done, I think you should at least have a general concept of noodling with the scale over blues, okay? All right, level 2. I'm gonna start explaining level 2, but I want you guys to go ahead in that chat over there. Let me know a little bit about where your experience is and how comfortable you are soloing, okay? Level number 2 is just adding 1 note. But first we need to understand the intervals of our scale. C is our tonic, our root. E flat is our minor third. F is our 4. Now these are intervals, okay? G is our 5. B flat is what's called the flat 7th, okay? Or you'll see it with like a little B with a 7. And a C note. Root, minor third, 4th, 5th, flat 7, root. So between the F, the 4, and between the G, the 5, we have a note called the flat 5th. All right. Now the flat 5th is also called the devil's 5th. That doesn't come from Robert Johnson. That doesn't come from the blues. That goes way, way back to the church when it was considered too sinister of a sound to use in the music they were making. So they banned it from the church. They said, this note, no, this is the devil's note. And ironically, the devil's note found its way in blues music. The only difference between C minor, pentatonic, and the C blues scale is adding that flat 5th. So that's the first and easiest way to break out of the pentatonic. Well, this isn't really so much tied to the Roman numeral thing, Robbie, but that Roman numeral thing is going, this is more to do with the soloing. It helps to understand the Roman numerals because in a blues, you always have your 1, your 4, and your 5. So it helps to know those, but it's not really tied to those. This has more to do with improvising, but going past the pentatonic scale. Now, if you feel like your level is just at the minor pentatonic scale, that's okay, because that's a big, important chunk and 99% of what you're going to do with your blues vocabulary. But by adding this one little tone, we add a lot of flavor. So again, like I said, it's a passing tone. What does a passing tone mean? A passing tone means it's a note that we don't really want to resolve on or play for a long time. We're just going to pass right through it. Oops, yeah. So we get 0, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now there's a lot of ways to pass through it though. This is where it gets interesting. You can slide. You can hammer on and pull off. You don't need to pass up. You can pass up and then back down. Same thing up here, pull off and hammer on. You can pre-bend up a little bit, down into it, and then pull off. You can walk up it and right back down it. Okay, you can slide over it. The only limitation is your creativity, but you can bend into it, slide into it, hammer on, slide up and back down. And that's going to make it sound a lot bluesier. So, you're welcome, my buddy Robbie. Just having those 1, 4, 5s in the back of the head helps. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is put that backing track back on, and I want you to see how different it sounds when I get that minor third involved. Okay. Pentatonic. Nothing so far. On the F, playing an F note over the F. Back to a C. Up to a G. To an F. Back to C. And up to the F. Now this time let's get the Okay, so that's what it sounds like. One measure without the flat fifth and one measure with the flat fifth. You can see by just adding that one little note, we add quite a bit of tasty blues action to what we got going. Okay, now we can also use the C major pentatonic to jam here. C major pentatonic is open C string, 2nd fret, open E string, 3rd fret, open A string, 3rd fret. Now this is where the Roman numerals come in, Robbie, because you can use the C major over a C chord, the 1 chord. You cannot use it over your F7, so you can't use it over the 4 chord. But you can use it over your 5 chord, your G. So when you're soloing, you can C minor. Let's say I'm over my C chord. C minor. Major. Go into the F, back to my minor. G, C major. F minor, C, back to major. There's that little flat fifth. Okay, so why does that work? Why does that work? Well, C7 is not a minor chord, so it has an E note in it. We've added an E note to that scale. We've also added the D note to it. The D note is the 9th interval, which is like the funk interval, okay? So you can feel free to add that. Make your blues a little funkier, and the same thing happens when you're soloing. It's going to give it a little funkier vibe. Okay. And the other one we added was the A note, which is the sixth, and it gives it a nice kind of like a country sounding vibe. Okay, now those are all intervals. That doesn't mean you have to go just minor scale or just major scale. Now what I'm going to do is put the backing track back on, and I'm going to mix the major and minor and try to listen to see if you can catch where I'm getting it, okay? So here we go, one more time. Yeah, starting off with the minor. All minor. Minor over the F. Major. A minor. Major. Minor. 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 Major. And minor. Minor. Major. Minor. Major. All right. Let me go ahead and hit pause. All right, Robbie and Robbie. I'm going to open up the floor to some questions, my friends. Really, the best way for you guys to learn this is for you to go out, put that backing track on, and do the same thing. When you have that backing track on, first, take it step one and just jam with that minor pentatonic scale. Maybe if you know some extensions, take it up there a little more. Step two. So the three interval from the minor scale can be played over three interval of a major scale and vice versa when soloing. Okay, you're welcome, Robbie. Yes, that works. It's important knowing, though, that we have two intervals that are called three, the minor third and the major third. And that's another really unique thing of blues. So, for example, for the C, the minor third is the E flat, but the major third is the E. So it's common to hear people hammering in to that. If I could give you a good example with an A, we're in A blues, and this note here is a C sharp, but the scale has a C note. So what do? You can hammer into that. Now, very, very important rule, my friends. Look right in the camera for this one. You can go from the minor third to the major third when you're soloing, but don't go right from the major third to the minor third. Go to a different note before you make that move. Once the scale shifts from minor to major, which is easy to do, it's a little harder to move it back to minor without it feeling like a big abrupt change. So as you're playing with that, your ear is going to be your barometer, but just know that it's easier to go from minor to major than it is from major to minor. All right? Okay, Rob, other questions, my friends. This is a heady topic. I would take it with that PDF one step at a time. Boom, this one first. Boom, this one second. Boom, this one third. Boom, this one fourth. Boom, this one. And then just kind of jam through it and jam through it and jam through it. These are most fun when you can find a friend to play with. Ideally, you wouldn't be with a jam track, but you'd have a friend and a couple beers, because that helps. It also wouldn't hurt to learn all the intervals of the chromatic scale. Tonic, flat second, major second, flat third, major third, fourth, flat fifth, fifth, flat sixth, sixth, flat seven, major seven, tonic. All scales are made up of different orders of intervals. In general, the major scale, root, major second, major third, 4, 5, 6, major 7, root. You can make that the Mixolydian scale by making the major 7th the flat 7th, and we have a Mixolydian. Which probably doesn't sound that different, but in the context of a blues, for example, a flat 7th for a C7 is a B flat note, and the major 7th is B flat. So you can play C Mixolydian, and it's going to sound great over your C. Okay, Rob and Rob, any more questions? Because I know a topic like this, we can't really cover in a half an hour. Each of those topics could be their own individual lesson. And in fact, I think I'm thinking about a blues series called The 4 Levels of Blues to break down each of one of these a little more in depth. There's no substitute for jamming. Just when I think I'm getting smart, you're humbling me. You did a great job on that arrangement for Three Little Birds, Rob. So you are getting smart in one area, but music is a humbling thing, man. Same thing happens with me. Just when I think I got something, I pick up a bass and I can't do anything with it, or I pluck a piano, or I try to sing. So that's the cool thing about these things is they always humble you. Some of the soloing you did was very reminiscent of George Harrison's playing particularly. That's quite the compliment, man. Thank you, Robbie. Traditionally in these classes, we've been doing chord melody. I've also, Rob, been doing some classes with Robbie one-on-one, and he's doing a really good job transcribing from sheet music and composing his own chord melodies too. So I wanted to go today with something a little more humbling and a little more different to make your knees buckle a little bit. Now, because we couldn't do a class in October, we'll do another one 2 weeks from today, and we'll probably do something more chord melody oriented. But I don't want to negate this lead playing because it can be extremely gratifying. If it feels overwhelming, minor pentatonic and jam. Put that backing track on and jam. Put it on and jam. Don't worry about playing the wrong notes. Just get them out, and you're gonna find some comfort in that. All right. All right. Any more questions, my friends? Should play a stand-up ukulele bass. Yeah, music is definitely the universal language. I was in Paris and some guy was playing in his house, Space Oddity, and I stood out the window and I heard it and I went. And next thing I know, I'm in a 1.6 million euro flat in Paris jamming with some dude. He invited me in and had a drink. It was incredible. A 4-part series that I mentioned, yeah, Robbie, I think that's the way to go because cramming all these in there, I imagine like to certain levels, you get to say, okay, I'm good with 1. Oh, I'm a little less comfortable with 2. And then by 3, you're lost. By the time you get to 4, it's kind of completely over your head, right? So we'll explore that. Number 1 takeaway, guys, Put that backing track on and jam that minor scale. Get comfortable with that. Add the flat fifth, and then start adding those other intervals. We'll talk about that a little more. Another really good example of that ninth interval, which is my favorite, if you listen to Layla Unplugged, you'll hear in that solo Clapton's all over that, and you can really hear it because it feels different. Like there's that one riff when he goes up. And he's all over that ninth interval in that song. Cheers, Rob. Happy to give it to you someday in real life. Hopefully we'll be able to sit down and have a beer and I'll tell you all about it. I'm interested to hear what you did with the one in G. If you emailed to me, I'll check. I think you might have. I think I might have saw an email from you again, so I'll take a look at that. And my friends, it is time for yours truly to go have some dinner. And I'm going to move that way, and I will see you in 2 weeks. You two are the consistent ones, so I plan these lessons mostly on what I think you two want to do. And the other people who give $10, that they can come if they want, but they're not as consistent as you guys. So I think about you. So in the next 2 weeks, let me know how this goes. Keep a dialogue open, and we can talk about either chord melody or blues next time. All right, guys? Okay, have a lovely evening. Thank you for spending the last half an hour with me. It's always a pleasure to jam with you dudes, and I hope these little seeds that we're planting can grow into big trees. All right, dudes, rock and roll. Take care of yourselves.